Today we're going to do a program on plant propagation. John Bowen is one of our new master gardeners from last year, the last class, 2019. He's been playing with plants his whole life, although he did not start working with stem cuttings until just a couple of years ago. He says he hates to see all those little annuals freeze out every year, but when he knows that could keep on growing. And so he likes the challenge of turning one plant into 2 or 3 or 20 or 30 or more. He was a science teacher before he moved to Asheville, and now he's a master gardener and the co-chair of our Speakers Bureau. And he's happy now, I think. He gets to combine his two greatest passions, plants and teaching. So let's see what we can learn about propagating plants. Thank you, John.
The question was, why would we bother to want to propagate new plants? Why would we want to do this kind of asexual reproduction? We're master gardeners. Aren't we up to our ears in plants? If I could have you all here with me, if I could just hear you all talking, you'd have reason after reason after reason. And I can imagine right now, you're saying, well, I need to make more of what I already have. Or I need to make plants to share with friends. I need plants to donate to the Master Gardener plant sale. I have a plant I can't move and I need to preserve it. Or maybe you're going to say, I just need to have more fun. Plants are fun and I need to do things with them. So what we're going to do today is give you an overview of how we go about doing plant propagation and particularly how we go about doing stem cuttings. I want to show you first some pictures of some of the annuals that I've managed to propagate. These are some that I did this winter down in the basement under lights. You see some New Guinea impatiens up on the upper right. There's some just plain old bedding begonias. Underneath it are some trays of petunias. I started with 4 or 5 plants, and you just can't have too many petunias. I also tried some other ones. In the fall, I took some cuttings of my fuchsia triphylla. And it gets to be, 2 or 3 feet tall. It's a beautiful plant for the shade, and it responded very well to taking cuttings. I did some garden floss just because I wanted to see if I could. In the summer, last summer, I took some cuttings of yellow twig dogwood. This plant's about 2.5 feet tall, and it came from cuttings that I started last summer and overwintered in my blueberry bed. So it's ready to go. It's a great way to make more plants. Before we get too far down the path, though, I have to give you a word of caution. This is an incipient master gardener. This is me a couple of years ago. You see, I'm getting ready to be an intern. And the danger is that once you get this in your blood, once you start propagating, this is what can happen to you. This can be your house. And this is only part of it. So please be careful here. We are treading on dangerous ground. So let's talk a bit about vegetative propagation. There are many ways that we go about propagating. One thing we do is what I would call the specialized techniques. Grafting, budding, stooling. Those are things that pros do. Those are things that commercial propagators do. Most of us gardeners are not doing that. So occasionally some sneaks in. But there are some simpler things, some general things that are more common for gardeners. One thing we do often is we take crown divisions or we take offsets from rhizomes or stolons. It's what we euphemistically call digging plants. You've all been there. And then we also do stem propagation. We also get stems to root. If we're going to do stem propagation, there's 3 things that we want to do. One way it's often done is by what we call layering. And this is the simplest of all. We just take a stem, we take a branch, we lay it over on top of the soil, bury it with some soil, pin it down, and wait 3 or 4 months. Roots will probably form. We can snip it off the mother plant, and what we're left with is a nice rooted cutting. This works great for a lot of woody plants. Rhododendrons are really easy to propagate this way. A related process is what we call air layering, where instead of burying the stem, we wound the stem in the air. We cut through the cambium, wrap it in sphagnum moss and plastic to keep it moist. And again, in 3 or 4 months, roots will form inside that bag. We snip it off the mother plant and we have a nice rooted cutting. Figs respond very nicely this way. Some other plants do too. What we're going to talk about today, though, is the simpler, more common thing of just taking an existing cutting, putting it in some sort of a rooting media, and getting it to root. That's our focus for this conversation today. If we're going to root stem cuttings, there's two ways that most people will do it. Sometimes we take hardwood cuttings. You can see pictures here of dormant wood. It's laid out in bins or beds. It just sits there over winter, and in the spring, roots will grow. We can pull them up and plant them out. It's a simple thing to do, but it's a story for another day at a time. What we're talking about today is softwood or semi-hardwood cuttings. It's where the plants are actively growing. We're not waiting. We're just taking a cutting, putting it in media, getting roots right now, and maybe planting it out at the end of summer. So we're talking primarily about softwood, about green cuttings. It's a good time now because this is softwood season. The wood is growing and we're ready to go. I'm going to run you through the basic process. Here's the basic steps. I'm going to show you more about these in detail with hands-on, actual stuff down here on my work table once we get a little farther along. Step number one, find a stem you like, cut it off. Step number two, probably dip that in some sort of a rooting hormone. Step number three, stick it into rooting media. Step number four, cover it with sort of a plastic cover, maintain the humidity around the roots and the shoot. And step number five is the hard one. You have to wait patiently for roots because you want to know what's going on. You want to see what's happening. You want to get in there and tug at it, and pull at it, and see if it comes up and see if it has roots yet. And if you do, you can kill it. Roots are delicate. You have to step back and just be patient. After it roots, you can pot it up into maybe a 4-inch pot. It grows a little bit. It fills the pot. It goes out. It's planted out. And you are on your way. So what can you propagate this way? Many, 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 many plants go this way. Some of them are really easy. Some of them are so easy that you cut them off and they practically root right in your hand. Some are harder. They have tricks. They have techniques. They're so tough to root that you scratch your head and say, I wonder if this was put on earth just to confound gardeners. Could be, but they're all worth a try. So what shouldn't you propagate? Well, one thing you don't want to propagate are patented plants. And sometimes it's hard to tell which are the patented plants and which are not. You can look it up, you can Google this, you can check. A lot of catalogs are good about it. Here's this Invincible Weed White Hydrangea. And just a note here, the little R tells me that the weed white part is a trademark name. Trademarks are not patents. They're just trademarking the name. There is nothing in this listing that specifically tells me this is patented. Based on this would probably be fine to propagate, but you might check further. Ideally, sometimes you're going to see an actual plant patent number, like on the hydrangea fire and ice here, where the plant patent is given. Plant patents run 20 years. I don't know how old fire and ice is, but it's going to be a while probably before we can actually propagate this one on our own. What you'll also see is what we see here with Pacific Sunset. I hope it's visible on your screen. You can see the letters PPAF, plant patent applied for. There may be one granted already now, but it's been applied for. It's going to be a patented plant. It is not on your patent list. So we're going to get started here. We're going to actually go through the process. I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint mode and bring it into the real table here, and we're going to see how we actually do these things. First thing we're going to do is go out in the garden. We're going to snip a plant, and we're going to first address this question of softwood versus hardwood. This is a skip laurel, and I think it's pretty easy to see here what we have. Okay, you can see down here, obviously, some old wood. That's definitely hardwood, and you see above it some green shoots here. What you might notice is a difference in leaf color. You can see the dark green leaves right here where I'm pointing. Right underneath it are some light green leaves. The light green leaves are on this year's growth. The dark green leaves are on last year's growth. So sometimes it's a little hard to tell. But one of the big tests you can do is you can take the softwood, you can bend it. If you can bend it 90 degrees without breaking it, you're talking about this year's wood. You're talking about softwood. If you try to bend the bottom part down here 90 degrees, you're just going to snap it off. And I'll show you that some more on a couple other shoots, but that's our distinction. We want to be working with the softwood. So I'm just going to snip this guy off right about here. And we have a shoot now, which is all softwood. So now the question is, if I cut this in the field, I bring it into my shop, where am I going to cut this one? We're not sure where the roots are going to form, because sometimes they'll form along the stem. Sometimes they'll form right on the tip. Sometimes they'll form right at the node. And we just don't know until we've done this enough time to have some experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to generalize. We're going to cut it about 1/8 of an inch below the node. And there it is. There's my node, about 1/8 of an inch. I don't want that leaf. That node's going to go into the media. So I'm going to strip it off. Carefully, I'm going to pull it off. I don't care if it leaves a little wound, because I want to wound these stems anyhow. There are too many leaves here. I'm going to cut some more. I'm going to cut the next leaf off, or actually I can gently try to pull it off. I'm going to pull. I'm going to cut the next leaf off. I'm going to cut the next leaf off. And I'm left with a couple of leaves at the top. Let's see what it is. A couple of leaves at the top, one leaf here. Okay, that's too much leafy material. So I'm going to need to cut these guys in half. I need leaves, but I don't want too many because I don't have any roots to support them. So this is what my cutting is going to look like. And I have 2 nodes down here that I'm going to put in the media. A node here that's probably going to be above the media, and this is going to be sticking up as my stem. That's a nice cutting. It's thick enough to hold itself up. It's not floppy, but it's small enough to be definitely green wood. Let's just set that one aside and maybe take a look at another one here. Because we're going to put him in media in a minute. One that I really like to deal with are petunias. You saw earlier, petunias are my favorite. Here's a petunia that I picked up the other day. I'm going to show you head on. There are a lot of little stems on here that could be used to propagate. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This plant's not going to mind if I give it a haircut because it's going to just grow out new shoots so quickly anyhow. So let me come in here as low as I can go, grab a stem, and I'll show you what this looks like. There's a good petunia stem. Turn it a little bit, hope you can see it better. It's got a lot of leaves on it. You can see from my finger about the diameter of the stem is. This is all new growth. It's pretty flexible. It's good to go. I'm going to strip the leaves off. Maybe one more. If there's a flower bud on it, I'm going to pinch that off. And what I have is a shoot that looks like that. It's got, you can make it a little different angle for you, like that. It has too much leaf on it. So I'm going to cut these leaves in half. I just can't support that much leaf with no roots, but I need some. There is a little piece that needs to go away. There is a very nice little cutting that's going to be great for propagating. Petunias grow like crazy. It'll be really, really simple to do this. And I could go around this plant and snip off 5 or 6 more. I won't do that now, but it's really easy on petunias to get a bunch of them. And they'll root in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll have more petunias by the first part of July. So there's a couple of cuttings we can work with. I want to talk to you about roses for just a minute too. I have 2 rose cuttings here, and I know I have some rosarians in the program here. Let me just lay my rose cutting there. This is one, you can see where I'm pointing. You can see a dead flower. This is one I cut off this morning that was just deadheading the spent bloom. You can root these. It's a little bit iffy sometimes because the stems are small and sometimes they'll rot before they can actually root. But we could give it a try. There's my node right there. I'm going to snip it off right below the node. I'm going to cut off this leaf. I'm going to cut this 5-part leaf back quite a bit. because it's definitely too much leaf. Cut that off, cut off that leaf, cut off that leaf. Move my stuff to the side. And there is a nice little rose cutting. It might or might not root, but if I'm going to throw it in the trash or in the compost pile anyhow, it's worth a chance. Let's just set it aside and we'll process it with the others here in a minute. What works better for roses is to take a longer stem. And this one is about 1 foot long. What's better about it is you're down in the thick part of the stem. So this is not one that I would do for deadheading. It's one I would just do in general pruning or because I want to propagate. I would come to this one and just start cutting off the lower leaves. Snip, 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 snip. Maybe one more. That's too many to support. Cut off those. Cut off those. Oh, there's a couple of buds that would have bloomed. Cut off those. Cut off those. So it's had quite a haircut. And you can see now what it looks like. I'm going to leave it this long because these long stems seem to root really well. And the thickness is really an advantage when you get it in the media. I am, however, going to slip on a glove and strip off those thorns because they're going to be nasty later on and I don't want to deal with them. Stripping off the thorns also wounds the stem. And those wounds are a good place for the rooting media to enter and the plant to make some wound callus, which will help it root. There's my rose now with the stem stripped off. We'll put that one in media here shortly. That gives us 4 things to work with. That's probably good enough. So now we have these cut pieces. What do we do next? Well, we need to make an executive decision. Are we going to work with rooting hormone or not? Many propagators will. Let me show you some things about rooting hormone real quickly here. The rooting hormones we're talking about are usually synthetic preps of indole butyric acid, abbreviated IBA. It comes in various concentrations, and there are 3 formulas that you typically see. One of them is the IBA powder. This is common. This is available in all of the nurseries, the big box stores. Some brand names on it: Hormone, Miracle Grow, Garden Safe. Formidone is a very popular one. It comes in various strengths, and the stronger it is, the more likely it is to work with hard to root woody cuttings. It's inexpensive, it's convenient and easy to use. It's just right there in the bottle, right in the jar, ready to dip your plants into. So that's a really good choice for basic rooting. This is a chart that Lomax provided, and it shows you that there are hormones, 5 different concentrations. You start at the top with the easy to root varieties, and you can go down to stronger and stronger and stronger concentrations. At the very bottom, you see some 3% for really difficult to root woody plants. I have never used that one. I use the second one, the number 3 they call it, which is the 0.3%. It works on most things. It's not going to hurt to have it a little bit stronger than the very bottom one, but for the most general plants, for everything I'm rooted, I'm pretty much in that number 3 zone. That's a good all-purpose choice. Some other formulations that a lot of propagators use, one of them is Lomax, a brand name. It's a gel. It's not a powder, it's a gel. The idea is the gel will seal the cut stem. It might have some vitamins and minerals in it to help the plant along. Many growers really like it. It comes in single-use packets that are good for about 15 dips, and it also comes in larger bottles that you can pour out and dip your plants into it. Another one that I have used and really like is one called Dippin Krug. What's different about Dippin Krug is it's a solution, not a gel or a powder. It has the IBA in it and also another rooting hormone, NAA. It's concentrated, and they give you a little bottle, a little jar, which is to dilute it to the proper concentration. You dip the stems in it for about 5 seconds, set them aside, put them in your media, and off you go. So if I'm doing a lot, if I'm going to do 20 or 30 or 50 stems, I would usually go to the Dippin Krug just because it's faster and easier than the powder, and it gives me a very uniform coverage. I know in this internet age, you're all going to be out there doing research on this, and you're going to say, but John, what about these other options that are out there on the internet? What about the people that swear by using honey, dipping their stems in honey? Honey may be a great fungicide, but there is no scientific supportable evidence that honey is a growth hormone. It may not hurt, but it's not going to be a growth hormone. You see people use cinnamon, powdered cinnamon. It's an interesting product and it ends up in a lot of greenhouses. But once again, no scientific evidence that cinnamon is a growth hormone. You see people using roses in potatoes. Take a potato, make a hole, stick a rose in it, bury the potato. Some rose growers swear by it. Other people say the roses never did anything, but I got a really good crop of potatoes. You're on your own on that one. There's no evidence that potatoes are a growth hormone. Another choice is willow stem water. If you can cut some willow stems and steep them in water, willow does exude growth hormones. And if you're rooting your cuttings in water with willow in it, it can be effective for some cuttings. Wicket's a big sometimes. You also see people putting aspirin in water to root stems. No scientific evidence that aspirin itself is helpful. Aspirin can be related to the chemicals in willow, but one of those is not the growth hormone. I would say, guys, stick with the commercial growth hormones. I think you're going to have way better success. So we have these great cuttings here. We're ready to go. And now the question is, what do we do with them? We have 4 of them. They have to get into some sort of rooting media. Well, one choice is to put them in water. And the skip laurel, it might root in water. A lot of things do get used with water. Coleus, pothos, they root like crazy in water. I've rooted the fuchsias in water. I've rooted bat-faced coffea in water. They will root in water. You can get nice roots in water. But the problem is there's often a difficult time making the transition from what we call water roots to roots growing over in media. That liquid to solid transition is often difficult, and some plants have great roots that just don't make it as cuttings. So here's 2 thoughts on this. Firstly, anything that will root in water will also root in solid media. And secondly, is you almost never see a commercial grower trying to root anything in water. They almost always use media. It works, glass in the windowsill can work, but for right now, we're going to talk about working in media. So what kind of media should we use? We have to put these into something, and there are a lot of choices. Some propagators like to use sand. Media has 3 purposes. It's supposed to support the cutting so it doesn't flop over. It's supposed to provide moisture around the cut in so the roots can form and not dry out. And it's also supposed to allow air to come in and penetrate the system so that the roots get good aeration. The air seems to help the rooting. Builder's sand, sharp sand, does that very well. It's porous, but it retains enough water by capillary action. You don't want to use clay sand. Don't go to the playground and steal that stuff. It's rounded, it packs too tightly. Many people will use bark, pine fines, not oak, but pine fine. Asheville Mulch Yard here in town sells pine fines in bulk. Daddy Pete's has a bag of soil enhancer, which is just aged pine fines. They're coarse, but they work really well. They retain enough and they allow good aeration. Some people use just perlite. You all know what perlite is, this white, volcanic, expanded stuff. This makes great rooting media. It retains enough water, but it lets in plenty of air. It's easy to get the roots out of it when the roots are ready to go. It's a good choice. I've used it for begonias. My favorite, however, is to use a mixture of perlite and coconut coir. This is 50-50, half and half by volume, of perlite and coconut coir. The coconut coir holds a little extra water, but the perlite allows plenty of air, and I think it makes a great rooting media. You could use peat too. You could use 50-50 perlite and peat. What you don't want to use is straight potting soil. 2 reasons. It's too dense, it holds too much water too long and will root your cuttings, doesn't let enough air in, and the fertilizer in it, if it has a fertilizer, can be really hard on little tiny roots. So this is my favorite. I like this, and I use this for almost all of my cuttings, and it seems to work pretty well for me. Okay, so we're making progress here. We have some cuttings. We've decided on some media. Now we actually need to go through the process of sticking them in something and getting them to start rooting. So what are we going to put them in? Remember that the goal is to be able to maintain humidity and also to let some light in, because light hitting those leaves has a big impact on how quickly and easily those roots will form. So one of my very favorite things to root in is a plain old 10-ounce solo cup, a drink cup. There's a leaf underneath there. There we go. These work great. And what I like about them, I'm going to turn it up right here, is if you have the 9-ounce solo cups, they will fit on top of it and make a beautiful little greenhouse cap. It's easy to get on, easy to get off, but it maintains humidity in there. You can see the humidity around the cup. You can see the roots form. Solo cups are great for that. If your cuttings are long, are tall, like this rose cutting is, this is clearly not going to fit in a solo cup. Another really good choice is to use a 4-inch pot like this. You can cut the bottom off a 1-liter beverage bottle, put it on top. It makes a beautiful little portable greenhouse cap. And as you can see, it's going to leave room for the rose inside it. The height is good. You can leave the cap on or take it off, depending on how much humidity you want. If you're not getting enough humidity buildup in the vessel, put the cap back on. Either way, it's a good, flexible little mini greenhouse, and it works great for roses. Let's put some of these into their media. Let me show you first how I actually prep one of the solo cups. This is a solo cup out of the package, the 10-inch cup. I need drainage. I need to be able to get liquid flowing through this. Having my scissors here, trying to find my toys. I'm going to come on the bottom. I'm going to cut 2 edges off. Just sitting there. I'm going to cut, boom, like that. I've got a gap right there. Same thing on the other side. Just cut a chunk out. Have a gap. Right there, you can see the scissors going in. That makes very good drainage, but the media stays in place. So then when I go and scoop it up, I have a bin over here which has some pre-moistened, ready to go media. There's my solo cup. There's my rooting vessel. We're ready to go. I'm going to use some of the powdered Lomax number 3 on these. I'm going to take my skip laurel cutting. I have nodes. I want to get it coated with the media. I want to get powder up as high as the second node. I'm going to go about that far into the media, and I want the powder to cover my 2 modes. Well, now if I just try to jam this into the media, I'm liable to break the cutting, or I'm liable to scrape all the hormone powder off. So I need a dibble. I need something. An old table knife makes a good dibble. I can just go in and make a little hole with the table knife. I'm making it, you can't see this, I'm making it close to one side. I'm not making it in the center. And the reason is when it starts to root, I'll be able to look through the side of the cup and easily see those roots and know what's going on. So I'll be less tempted to grab this thing and keep tugging and pulling on it. I could get 2 in there. I could probably get 3 in there. If I wanted to put the petunia cutting in there, I wouldn't mix cuttings in a bottle, but there's plenty of room there for a second cutting or even a third cutting. 3 is about my limit because if I get great roots, they're so tangled up that they're difficult to get out. So that's that one. The media is already damp. I feel my finger. It had been wet. No water is running out of it. It's not wringing wet. It's damp. I'm going to set it aside somewhere, pop the cover on it, and leave it alone. Shortly, I'll see humidity building up around the cover, and after a while, I should be able to see roots in there. If I was doing the rose, I would do the same thing. I try to get my powdered hormone up there, up a couple of cuttings. I'm going to go about this deep with the rose. I'm going to put it in a 4-inch pot. And once again, I'm going in the center. I'm going to make a hole, slip it in, tap it down so my shoot doesn't flop around. I'm going to put my 1-liter bottle on it. And there's my rose in a mini greenhouse. So we'll set it aside. He's ready to go. I could do the petunia in another one. I have vessels that are pre-cut just to get the petunia there because it's really cute and I can't bear to leave it out. Oops. Need to stick a little hormone on there. Same thing. Petunias are very hairy, so the hormone sticks quite a bit. But I'm up to one node, second node. And I'm going to vary that so that second node is under. It's down about an inch, inch and a half in the media. Turn it a wee bit because I don't want its top sticking out. There's its cap. And there's a petunia waiting to root. Maybe I don't want to use an army of solo cups. Maybe I don't have space for this, but maybe I'm trying to root 50 petunias. Well, what else could I do? A couple of choices. One possibility is to use a regular 10-20 tray with a 6-cell, which would be a 36 total divider or a 72 divider, and just fill the cells with the rooting media. Again, you need the humidity control, so it's good to have a clear cap over it. With a clear cap on it, you have a beautiful rooting chamber. I use this for small things like petunias because they root so fast. If it's going to be a long time, if it's going to be a couple of months to get roots, and sometimes it is, these get a little cumbersome in my space and I can get more flexibility out of the solo cups. This is a good way to go. Another way you could do this would be to actually use a tote like this, just a clear plastic tote. You could cut some holes in the bottom because you want some drainage. You could put 3 inches of your rooting media right in the tote, and you could just go boom, 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 and insert the 150 cuttings in this tote. You could have just a giant tote farm full of petunias. So some other ways to go. Solo cups, 4-inch pots, totes. In any event, you now have these things that are now sitting in their cups. They need to go somewhere. What are we going to do with them? You have lots of choices this time of year. You can be pretty flexible. If you have a place with plant growth lights, you can put them under light. The light hits the leaves, that helps with the rooting process. You can put them on a windowsill. You want to avoid direct sun, that can fry them. But you could put them on a north windowsill. You could put them on a shaded windowsill. You could just set them in the corner of your living room. They make good cat toys, so you need to be careful. Keep the cat away from the lids. You can set covered pots right in the tote and have a tote full of pots. Set them outside on the north side of the house, out of the sun. If you have good humidity in the tote, you can even take the lids off and just line up a bunch of pots right in the tote and let the tote provide the humidity rather than the cap. But outside is fine. On the north side of your house is fine. What we find for the softwood cuttings is this time of the year, when you're getting the warm days and the cool nights, that seems to get the rooting going on a lot of plants, and it's a good time of year to be rooting. There's 3 that are ready to go. We could keep chopping these and doing more, but that's basically your story. 4 important things. Number 1, you need a media that's porous. You need a media that has good drainage. Number 2, you need a way to maintain humidity. If you're putting them in these types of things, cover them with something. Put them in a tote. Do something that will maintain your humidity. Number 3, and this is the hard one, you have to be patient because once again, the temptation is so strong to pull it up, pull it up, pull it up, and you can damage the roots. And number 4, the other thing you have to do that's really important is you have to get started. You have to be willing to go out there and cut some stems. You have to be willing to put them in something, sit back and wait, because I guarantee you, if you don't cut any, if you don't stick any in media, they aren't going to root. So what's it going to look like when it's successful? What does success look like? Let's see if we can see that. This one's been in for about a month. And right here, you can see those little white threads. Right there, by my finger, little white threads going in there. Those are the roots. This is some sort of a euphorbia that I picked up somewhere. I'm not even sure what it is, but it has little roots. And in a little while, I'll dump this out and take a look at it. Here's another piece of the same stem. I started at the same time. I didn't put it close enough to the edge, so I can't see if there are roots there, but it feels like they are. And I want to just dump it out here and see what the end of the stem looks like. I'm going to squeeze my cup a little bit, pull it out. Oh boy, look at that, let me put it on my hand, you can see it better. Look at the roots on that guy. He's just waiting to go into a 4-inch pot and start growing up. That's magnificent. That's about a month. That's why doing this is so much fun. We're going to put him over in a pot a little bit later. For right now, we'll just kind of bury him here to keep him moist. So that's the story. You can do this. Try it. Get going with it. And be sure, let me know what happened. I'm just really curious how it worked for you, and I want to hear your super great success stories. We have some references to help you out with this. One of them is this really good book by Alan Toogood, published by the American Horticultural Society. It's called Plant Propagation, a catchy name. It's been out there for quite a few years. There have been some revisions. I bought one used for about $10. It's a hardbound. It's a really good investment. Master Gardener Library might even have them. I don't know, but I pull it out every now and then and just check and say, well, how would you propagate that honeysuckle? How would you propagate blueberries? It's full of really good ideas on a lot of plants. So other good references we have, the North Carolina Extension Gardener Handbook. You all know and love this one. Chapter 13, propagation. We also have a good follow-up document for that from the university on plant propagation by stem cuttings. It's about 2 pages. It has some very good basic summary instructions. And 2 things I want to call your attention to also. Mike Kincaid is a propagator out in Washington. He has a really great website called Propagate Plants Like a Pro. And he has numerous free videos he's put together on propagating different things. He's a teacher. He shows you what's going on, why it's going on, what works for him. He tries different experiments. He's just a joy to watch. He's really worth your time. He is also the person that started this Facebook group called I Love Plant Propagation. I'm on there, and it's full of all kinds of propagators at various levels of experience. It's a great place to go to get ideas. It's a great place to go to ask questions. People are very kind and gentle, and they will answer any kind of a question based on their own experience. While we're on the topic of questions, we might want to think about whether and what you want to ask me. I'm sure you do. So it's time for questions. It's time for Stump the Propagator. It should be pretty easy. I'm going to stop sharing here, and Alice and I are both going to go into gallery view, and we're going to look for people with raised hands. Who has good questions? I see Amy.
Amy, yeah. I'm interested in finding out where you got your cocoa grow, because I've never heard of it before.
Okay, well, a couple things. Firstly, I buy mine in the 5 kilogram blocks. This is a big old block. It's about equivalent to a bale of peat in terms of volume once it's broken up and hydrated. This particular brand is Botanicare. It's gotten very good reviews in terms of its overall quality, its fiber size. People really like it. There's a couple other brands that people like, and there's some brands, if you just go on eBay and buy coconut coir, you may get some really junky stuff. So I think it's stick with a name brand. You need to shop around. I buy it locally from a place that I wouldn't expect to have the lowest prices, but I found better prices locally than I have trying to buy it on Amazon or eBay. So shop around. It's available,
Okay.
and the 5 kilograms goes a long way.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help, Amy?
Yes, thank you.
John, Curtis Coates in the chat box said that it was available at Lotus, which is a plant supply store in West Asheville. Laura Brooks has her hand up, John.
Laura.
Hi, John. Thank you very, very much. This question is cutting the bottoms off of those clear plastic bottles that all my tonic and club soda comes in to make the little greenhouses.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty tough. Do you have a way that you cut those that makes it a little bit easier?
I have 2 suggestions. Firstly, be sure you have Band-Aids.
Yes.
Okay, what I usually do is just kind of pinch it, and if you have a pair of fairly heavy scissors, you can pinch it and get a start. It's a little bit hard. Also, I will use a box knife. This is one I picked up at Habitat for Humanity for a couple of bucks. has a nice sharp blade. And once you get started, it's pretty easy to lie the bottle on its side, just kind of rotate it around gently so it doesn't go zoop and go flying off. But getting that first little hole in there, that's the trick. And I usually cut right where the line is on the bottom of the bottle because it helps me keep it fairly straight.
Thank you.
John, I have a question, and I may have missed it when once you put your cutting in your pot and you put your little greenhouse on, are you keeping it in the shade?
If I was outdoors, I would definitely keep it in the shade. If I was indoors, I would keep it out of the sun because it's a little greenhouse and the sun can fry it. It doesn't need sun because we're not trying to make the leaves grow like crazy. We're just trying to get enough light on the leaves that they know they're there and they can send some hormones down.
Okay, great. Ann Seneschal has her hand up.
I have two questions. Once you have the little cutting in the little greenhouse, do you water it?
That's a great question. Do you water it? And the answer is, as long as you can see humidity beads, see the water build up around the cap, I leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And if I pick it up and it starts feeling really light, I'll open it, stick my finger in there, feel a little bit. If it feels really dry, then I'll take water, I'll just pour a little bit in and let it run out. But you're not trying to keep it wet like you were keeping a growing plant wet, because it's not using any water. You're maintaining the humidity with the cover. And if you keep watering it, you're very likely to rot the shoot. It's okay to let the shoot work a little bit. Let it know that its job is to grow roots and that you'll give it some, but it's kind of on its own to be responsible for itself.
My other question was, can you root azaleas?
That's a challenging question because of the U part. One can root azaleas, although I have not had any success yet rooting azaleas. I would definitely Google that and see what the azalea experts say. Azalea is one of these plants, that I understand that there's an optimum time of year. People will say, well, I've taken cuttings in June and they won't work. I'll take cuttings in July and they root better. They're definitely worth trying. And rhododendrons are the same way. Now is probably a good time to try rhododendrons, although they actually work so well as layering by tacking that stem down that if I wanted one or two, I would probably go the layering route. And some rhododendrons are easy to root. Some varieties of the same species or the same crosses just won't go. So it's a hard question. You can do azaleas. You can do them from stem cuttings, but I would definitely do some research and see what some people who've done it regularly can tell you about what's successful.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Susan Holman has a question.
Yep.
Susan.
Just a real quick one, John. I'm lazy and I like to have a rooting medium that's in a bag altogether. Did you say that Daddy Pete's has a bark fines in a bag?
Yes, Daddy Pete's bark fines is a product they call soil enhancer.
Okay, that's
And
what
it's aged pine fines, nothing else, no soil, and it works great as immediate. But if you want just in a bag, straight perlite works well too.
All right, thank you.
Nancy Birmingham has a question.
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nancy.
Okay, hi. Couple things. I had in the past been using some soil to do some of my cuttings, mainly for house plants, but some outdoor plants. I was having some problems with damping off occurring. That would probably go away if I switched to something that did not have any type of soil in it, right?
I think so. Yeah, the problem of soil is so dense that it contains more moisture than you need here. Because you're not moving moisture through the plant. It's not like the roots are taking it out. So you really want to keep the moisture level down, and those roots need air. Across the board, people don't have great success using soil or even potting soil.
Yeah, because what I've done to sort of get around that is I have a fan blowing into the area where the plants are, and that has eliminated some of the damping off, but why not just not use that soil anymore? That makes more sense.
And if the fan works, that's great to know too.
Okay, great. And one other thing about the comment about how do you cut off the bottom of the plastic cups, which I like what you're using those for, Laura. We have found that if you can get like an owl or some kind of sharp tool that you can heat over a flame, you can then put it in the plastic and it will melt the plastic and give you holes for water drainage. So that was another thing that we found.
That works fine. I've used a screwdriver and heated it over the stove and stuck it in. The caution there is that the fumes off the plastic are probably toxic, so you might want to do it in a well-ventilated place.
Yeah, we usually did ours outdoors. Thanks, John.
Laura Brooks has a question.
John, when you get your roots, you see your roots, are you going to be giving them any kind of like a light liquid fertilizer, almost hydroponic type stuff to give them some nutrients before you plant them out, or are you doing just water?
I'm doing just water, and they'll just be on a water diet until they're actually ready to go into a pot and be out in the air on their own. I think what happens is if you give them fertilizer too soon, give them fertilizer while they're still in the cups, for instance, it's, even though it's dilute, some of the roots are really, really delicate. And it also encourages the growth of algae. They don't need it. Most of the stems have a lot of energy stored in them. And so you don't really see much need because the leaves aren't expanding like crazy. So I hold off until I get them in an actual pot, and then I'll give them a shot at half strength. If I give them the liquid, I'll use a half of what's recommended for a potted plant. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, Catherine Pollock has her hand up.
Yes, I think I just maybe heard something that was new. So maybe you could explain a little bit. Once you get that nice ball of root that you had on the plant that you just showed, you're not potting it right away. You're putting it into like a cup of water or something. I wasn't quite sure what you were saying there.
I may have confused there. This one right now, this one I would probably pot up in a 4-inch pot.
Okay.
Because I don't want to overwhelm it with empty space, but I want to give it room to expand. So I pot it in a 4-inch pot with whatever media I'm going to use. As a U-form of some sort, I'd probably have something that was really high in perlite, but it's going into the media that it's going to be potted out in. But I would leave it in the 4-inch until it had filled the roots pretty well on a 4-inch. And then I'd either put it in a gallon, put it in the ground, wherever it's going to go from there.
Thank you.
Susan, go ahead.
Did you say that when you put it into the 4-inch pot, you continue to use the potting media, or do you then use some sort of potting mix, potting soil?
If it's a plant that would normally grow in soil, like a petunia or a rose, I put it into a potting media. I use Fox Farms or Pro Mix or something like that. But on something like this euphorbia, this guy wouldn't want a lot of aeration of porous media. I'm very likely to pot this guy up in the very same media that he rooted in, because I treat him more like cactus, so I use a really coarse media. But normally I would pot it up in whatever you would want to use to grow it on.
Okay, thanks.
Bet has a question. Bet Feingold.
Okay, thank you, John. I use heat mats to grow my seeds. Would these do better on a heat mat if you set all the little cups on it?
Yes, and I actually, in the winter especially, I do. In the summer, maybe not. But in the winter, I do a lot of mine with what they call bottom heat, which comes from the heat mats. And what many propagators say, the ideal thing is to get the roots about 10 degrees warmer than the shoots. And since most heat mats run about 10 degrees above ambient, that's perfect. I would line it up on a heat mat. If I can get the roots warm and the tops stay cool, that's a good rooting environment. It's not a have to. Some plants do better with it, but I do have about 5 heat mats and I do regularly use them. And most things seem to do pretty well on it. It's a good question. Thank you. What other questions do we have?
Mary Alice?
My question is, what do you seriously do with all those plants? Because I have some experience with rooting, but mine's kind of haphazard, and I have seriously learned some things. You presented this in such a cool and interesting and organized way. I really appreciate that. But if you kind of get carried away and you have 20 of this or 10 of that and 30 of that, what do you seriously do with all those plants? I mean, you can certainly put them in the ground. You can give them to your friends, and you can donate them to, a sale. But what do you do with them?
Well, one possibility is I just collected $284 for the plant sale.
Yeah.
That counts. And you may give them away. I get my wife to come around here and be on the camera for a minute, and she would ask the very same question. What are you going to do with them? It depends. Like on petunias, I use them in the ground as bedding plants. I just love petunias, and it's hard to have too many. But I was pruning my skip laurels, and just to see what would happen, because I wanted to try it a little differently, I stuck about 100 cuttings last week. I don't even want any more skip laurels. So I'm going to give them away. I want to see how they work and the way I did it. I'm just curious what happened. So it was an experiment. But it's really easy to have too many plants. And the way around it maybe is don't try to propagate 50. Try to do 5 cuttings. And maybe if you're lucky, 2 will grow. And then give them away or find a home for them. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And on the website, many people ask, what have I done? It's a good question.
There's no such thing as too many plants.
I agree.
Well, I think Mary Alice said it very well, John. Very creative, very thorough. You've inspired many of us, I think, to go out and give it a try. I like that you did an annual and a shrub, and given us some good ideas to, just like you said, get out there and just start.
Yeah, it's a perfect time. Just go out and look around, find some new growth, try it. It's fun. It can be addictive. You start learning more about how plants grow, what does what. It's a new dimension to some of the gardening you may be doing, and you have to let me know how it works. I need to know.
Thank you.